Hello, family. Hello, hello, hello. It's Rosalind again. So, you know what that means. That means it's time for real talk now. Our cracks are not our flaws. From the voice of the millennials. Yes, yes. Now, before we get started, let me read you an encouraging story. An elderly woman had two large pots, each hung on the ends of a pole which she carried across her neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, while the other pot had was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water. At the end of the long walks, at the end of long walks from the stream to the house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on. It went on daily, and with the woman bringing home only 1.5 pots of water. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, but the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfections and miserable that it could only do half of what it had been made to do. After 2 years of what is perceived to be bitter failure, the broken pot spoke to the woman only to realize that they were actually doing work. The pot said, I am ashamed of myself because this crack in my side has caused water to leak all the way back to the house. The old woman smiled and she said, did you notice that there are flowers on the side of the path in which you were traveling? It is because have always known about your flaws. So I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we were walking, you watered them. For 2 years, I have been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my table. Without you being just the way you are, there would not be this beauty to grace my house. Family, this story speaks to how we often assume that because we are not perfect, we are not of value, which is incorrect. Each of us, each of us are uniquely created by our Heavenly Father. Yes, yes. The cracks, the cracks and flaws we each have are not negative, but rather they speak to how this world is filled with generations of people that have evolved and are independent thinkers. I have a group of beautiful, successful, and independent thinkers tonight, the millennials. The millennials are that group of young people that are often misunderstood. I often say we really need to listen to this group of young people because they have something to say. And what they have to say is powerful. Ladies, please introduce yourself to the family and tell us what you tell us what you do and what you want us to know about your generation. Yes, yes.
My name is Sydney Williams. Hello, everyone. I am 29 years old. I am a former teacher and now full time grad student. I am going to get my degree in social work. One thing that I believe is important for everyone to know about our generation is that we do not feel entitled. We do not mind working for what we would like to have for ourselves. So that's often a misconception that a lot of people have about us. We're not entitled. We don't mind working.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel Griffin. I'm a pre-K teacher, and I've been doing pre-K for 4 years. And I'm 29 as well. And one thing I would like people to know about our generation is that we're not all the same. We're not all about trouble or just sitting home doing anything. We want to, some of us want to go to college, want a good job, want to be successful. We're not all the same. A lot of times the older generation put us in this category and say, those young folks, this or that, but we do have, our mind set up, goals in mind that we want to accomplish. So we're not all the same like you may think.
Hi, everybody. My name is Raven Hutley. I'm 30 years old. I am a recent MSW grad, and I currently work at, a residential based organization for victims and survivors of domestic violence. And one thing that I want people to know about our generation is that we're putting more of an emphasis on our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janisha Williams. I am 28 years old. I work for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the thing that I would like to communicate, especially to our older generation, as Angel said, a lot of us actually identify more with your generation, and we also value, we're not all rebellious, so we actually value or want to hear your thoughts and opinions on things.
Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica Gigi Powers, and I am a consultant for a healthcare firm. I'm also a lifestyle blogger and a life coach. One thing that I would like for everyone to know, I think there's a misconception that millennials do not want to, we don't listen well, and that we're not willing to have conversations with the older generation, but that is the biggest misconception. We are here. We want to sit down and have these conversations with you guys. We just need you guys to be open to talk to us, to hear us, and to allow us to hear you guys, and then we can all come together and just get rid of all of the misconceptions that we have, because it really is a big misconception that we don't listen, but we do, and we want to hear from you guys.
Hello, everybody. I am Lauren Fitzgerald. I'm 30 years old. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of two. I'm a history teacher. I have a shea butter line called Hadassah Beauty Live Nourished, and also a spoken word scripture ministry called In the Beginning Was the Word, Spoken Word Scripture. And one thing that I want the older generation to know about millennials is that we are we're not our flaws, and even if we've stumbled or made a mistake, we don't see that as defining us. And so we need you to accept us and accept us as we try to help people in those areas. So like for me, I have a really big heart for people who like completely strayed away from God. So I want to be able to help people in that area.
Hi, my name is Lachey Thomas, and I am a behavioral teacher at a behavioral institute in Fordyce, Arkansas. I also attend, I reside in Harrell, Arkansas, where I go to church there. Um, I am 29 years old. What I would like the older generation to know is just that respect and consistency just goes a long way with young people. Like in the truth, don't ever think that we're too young, that we won't understand. That if you just tell us the truth, we can accept it, and we are old enough to understand the truth. And yeah, that's what I would like the older generation to know.
Awesome, ladies. Yes, yes. Now, family. I just want to make sure I got everybody because I don't want to leave anyone out here. I think I did. Okay, we're going to keep going. Now, family, I am so very proud of these beautiful young, confident young ladies. Being young women of faith is not always easy. Being young women, how hard Was it standing in your truth in Christ? I ask this because, as I said, being a Christian is not always considered the popular thing to do. I want you all to answer that question for me.
Okay, so I'll go first. So, in answering that question, first and foremost, yes, it really sometimes is not popular to be a Christian, right? But at the same time, again, we've been talking about dispelling some of the misconceptions. I think that a lot of the misconceptions are that just because you are a Christian, just because you may have worldly friends, that these individuals are not capable of having spiritual or religious type conversations with you. And I just want to get that out there that that's far from the truth. For myself personally, when I graduated from high school, I moved far, 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 far away from my home base. Okay. So there was no one that knew me. There was no one that knew that I was a Christian or anything like, they didn't watch me grow up and know that, oh, Veronica, that's the preacher's daughter. Right. So as I was able to, make different friends as I was going through my walk, college, being in the military, etc., I actually was able to have conversations with people that were not in the church that led to really, really in-depth, heartfelt conversations about God. And so sometimes I think that we make it seem like being a Christian is harder than what it really is. There are people that are out there that are willing to listen and willing to have these conversations, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just people that are in the church. Now, and going back to like your original question, as far as like, is it hard sometimes? Absolutely, it's hard sometimes because there is that, or there was, specifically during my college and early years, that the peer pressure, or just not even necessarily, I don't even want to really call it peer pressure sometimes. You just want to have fun. And so I've said before that, yeah, when I was younger, did I go to the club? Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. I did go to the clubs. I did hang out with my friends, some of them Christians, some of them non-Christians. But like I said, one thing that I did make it clear was that, hey, I might hang out with y'all on Saturday, but I'm going to church on Sunday, period. And I always invited people to church, and it was always that open invitation there. And it really wasn't as hard sometimes as we think it is to, be who you are.
Raven?
I think for me, just to I think there is a myth. I think being a Christian, being a young Christian, there is this microscope that's on you. People looking for you to make a mistake and then say, but you call yourself a Christian. So the hardest time I think for me would have been when I was in college. But I think a lot of that had to do with where I was at that time in my life. Trying to figure out who I was, and it didn't feel like the time to be or try to, it was hard to stay in my faith. And I think now that I'm older, I'm slowly or getting back to that place that I feel like I lost for all of those years. So I like Gigi said, it's not hard, but it's also important to try to stay focused, because it is really easy to get off track with life, because life will and does happen.
Angel?
I feel like for me, my experience was a little bit different from both of theirs. I was just at home. I had very strict parents, so it was more of my surroundings. I wasn't allowed to go to a bunch of parties. I went to school and I came home, went to church on Sunday, went to church on Wednesday, twice on Sunday. I didn't really have the opportunity to go to a party, hang out with a bunch of friends who may have been doing something that wasn't acceptable because of my strict parents. And when I was in school, I hung around. It's also who I hung around with, because I hung around with people who I knew. Well, not that I knew, but people who were kind of like me. I was always quiet, the quiet, shy girl in school. So it was just different for me. I didn't have that environment all around me all the time. Now, I did have kids in my class who would do things that I wasn't able to do. So I may have hung out with them a little bit, But then when I went home, it was always, you're not going this place, you're not going that place. So it was who I was around that kind of kept me grounded, I guess. And also, like when I was in high school, I would have these people in my class who would say, "Girl, it's 2006. You're not going to do this with me." And I would say, "No, I don't believe in that," or "That's not what I'm into." So I kind of stood up for myself and just my parents and just being strict and trying to follow rules, wanting to do what was right. So it was just my experience for me. So it can be hard, but it was who I was around as well that kind of helped out a lot and with my parents.
Sydney?
My personal experience, and I can just expound upon just being in college, I believe that was the harder portion for me. Yes, we all know that being the one to get up on Sunday mornings after everybody has gone out, getting up on Sunday mornings, going to church was not popular. And I was the one getting up. Everybody else was still asleep. But I think it just stemmed from the way that I was raised. My parents, they taught me the way that they wanted me to go, and it stuck. So of course, the family or the friend base that I chose to be around, we were definitely more reserved. And we were not perfect, but I think that it had a lot to do with the way that I made it through college, being a Christian woman and a woman of faith.
Janisha?
I would have to agree with what the previous ladies were stating with that. I see the commonality is that the environment that you choose matters. And for me personally, as Gigi has stated, I was not perfect, especially in my college years. I had a full experience, but my friends, they knew on Sundays where I was going to be at, Bible study, and even led to like me and my boyfriend, now husband at the time, leading the ministry on campus. But Raven had said something about, had mentioned how the stigma is that if you're a Christian, you can't mess up. And I think the one thing about my friends that they understood and that they respected was that I didn't act like I had it all together, and they respected that more, which led to more conversations and being transparent, because they saw my walk with God. So I'm really thankful that I had a good group of friends to surround myself with, that respected my walk and also were willing to have those difficult conversations as well.
Lauren?
Okay, so my experience is completely different. So when I was like a teenager, I stopped believing in Jesus at like 13. And it was like my Sunday school teacher, I asked her, I was like, "So how did Jonah live in the belly of the whale?" And she was like, "Oh, you just have to believe it." And I was like, "What?" And then my family went through some things, and I just decided, well, I don't want to be in the same faith as my dad, so I'm just not going to believe. I'm not going to worry about spirituality. I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to be Lauren. I'm just going to, have fun, live. I was just like, it just wasn't in my mind. So I went through this whole spiritual search. I went to college in Atlanta, and there's so many different religions. I studied all these different religions, and I was searching. And so I was the one who, like, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. No, I'm not going to church with you. I'm sorry. No, I don't want to hear it. No, I'm not reading the Bible. I was studying all these other different spirituality, but God knows how to get us back. He knows how to correct us. He knows how to show us that those gods are false. He knows how to show us that, no, you cannot do that. So that was my experience. And it took me moving in with my grandmother for me to start going back to church and like, vacation Bible school and and so I went through a like completely rebellious stage. But once I did come back to Christ, I like went so hard. Like I stopped listening to rap music. I didn't go out no more. I was like, I want nothing to do with who I used to be. And like I was like this completely different, like just goody two shoes, I don't do nothing person. And since then though, I've like tried to find a balance and I remember so everything happened in my life consecutively in 2014. And that was the year that my life just literally did a complete change. And I remember I went to like an event that was like some Church of Christ people, some of my husband's family, and then like, you know, just like quote unquote the world. And I remember seeing his family members dancing, and I was so appalled. I was like, oh my goodness, why are they dancing? But I was like, you know what? I think you once you've like kind of gone far, you have to like reel yourself back in, and then you have to figure out your boundary lines and figure out what's okay for you, what's not okay. And just as far as like being a Christian now, and is it hard? Actually, I feel like for me, since I was so far in the other direction and trying to get people to come that way, now that I'm actually a believer and believing in Jesus, now I'm like that's kind of one of my main focuses. So as far as like being tempted to go back to those things, I don't personally have that struggle, but it is still like sometimes you feel like, are people going to think I'm like actually being in not sincere in what I'm saying, even though I'm sincere, like I know this, like when I, you know, you're sincere because you know all the things that you've gone through to get there. But to other people, they might just be like, she's just saying that, she's not really like that, you know, so that's the part that kind of is a struggle for me, like knowing like, okay, I don't want to be too overzealous to make somebody else feel like I'm being fake, or you know, trying to find those boundary lines. And I think older people can help with that too.
Okay. Lachey?
Mine's was and listening to all the ladies like they were saying, it's just like when we do things, people feel like, oh, well, you're a Christian, you know, you aren't supposed to do that, or you shouldn't be doing that. Like, you know, we aren't supposed to stumble. So my biggest thing is that when we do stumble, or you know, when we do make a mistake, like getting back up and you know, saying, yeah, I did this, and you know, repenting of that, and just coming back to Christ and aligning your life together back with Christ. That's my biggest struggle, because you know, you feel like, well, these people are watching me, and like the sister was saying earlier, you know, you have to, she's still going to get up, and you're still going to go to church, and you're going to, no matter what you did that night. And I feel like that's important to let people see that yeah, we made a mistake, and yeah, we're doing this, or we did that, but we're getting up, and we're going to keep our focus on God, and we're not going to let that hold us back, or let that hold us down. Or so and watching some of the older people in my life do this, that is what really taught me, and that is what really made me come back to Christ, and just put my focus on Christ, seeing them stumble, but keep walking, and then them seeing me stumble but not judging me for it.
Great answers, ladies. What motivates you? What motivates you to be true to yourself and showing yourself as that light? Because as you said, you may have had friends that may not have been believers, may not have been Christians. Don't mean they're not good people, but you still had to have something that motivated you, whether it was your upbringing, you know, it was something that still let you know deep down inside that you weren't gonna go but so far. What was it that motivated you to make sure that you stay in the light? And Lauren, I'm gonna get you to start that because I see you are antsy on that one. I want you to start that.
Well, okay, so my dad was in the military, and so he like it was a standard for me. My brothers, he was just kind of like, okay, I get it, you're guys, you might not bring home all A's, but for me, you better have all A's. So, um, when I was in college, I just was like, this of you have to do. Like it's not there's no questions. So something that also kept me going was my grandmother and just seeing her life. So all the time that I would say, all the time, whatever, my grandmother would write me letters. She would say, Lauren, the Bible is your life, you're grieving the Holy Spirit. Um, you know, she would just always write me letters, send me money, like do anything just to continue to show me the love of God. And she really like wanting to make her happy was something that always like kept me going. And my dad's from Arkansas, and I knew his parents were sharecroppers, and my dad went to the military literally just to avoid being poor. So like it was always something that was like, you know, self-respect and a pride. Like, you know, you like I saw well, I didn't see it, but like I knew my dad built himself like from here to here to here to here to here. So I always just had that like it can be done, and that anything that you're like, if you have your eye on it, you can get there.
Oh, okay. Raven?
I had to think. You know how you have an answer for something and you like really have to think on it. So I can honestly say I'm the product of a praying mother, a tough, no nonsense mother, who always pushed me to try to do the best that I can do, even when I didn't want to, because I just thought she was being overbearing. And I remember growing up, she used to always say, my biggest concern is that I want to make sure that you and your brother are going to be fine if I'm not here. And I didn't get it. I still, you know, the thought of death is still something I have to process. But after, you know, you grow up and you really start to think and analyze things differently, that at the end of the day, and not to sound morbid, at the end of the day, all we have really are ourselves. You know what I mean? And we have to be the best that we can be for ourselves, not for other people, not for anybody else, but because we know that we can do it. And I think that's what motivates me, knowing that the possibilities are endless.
Denisha?
Like Raven, I had to readjust my thought process on the question, because looking back on my younger years, I mean, I'm still young, but I didn't realize that I was my faith and my need to be stable mentally and emotionally were really a motivation for me. So when I was mentioning earlier about, okay, I may have was struggling or in a dark place in my earlier years, but I was still going to church, or, you know, I was still having Bible studies or deep conversations with my peers. And at that time, I didn't know that, you know, God was grooming me, and that was actually keeping my head above water at the time. So now when I'm reflecting back on that, and even when situations arise now, I know that maintaining a healthy mental state and emotional state, and also maintaining my faith is what motivates me and keeps me to be, and helps me to be a better wife, a better friend and colleague, and over all aspects of my life.
Beautiful. Angel?
I would have to agree with what was said earlier. Of course, my parents, they always want the best for me. But I'll also have to say as well, my personality and just who I am as a person. Like, I want more for myself. I want to continue to learn and grow just for myself. I want to be a positive example for, everyone I come in contact with. I try to be, a very positive example, and that motivates me to continue to learn, grow, help whoever I can, and just continue to be the best person I can be, knowing that I may have someone looking up to me for maybe encouragement, just just who I am, like my character. So along with my parents who kind of helped me out when I was younger and want me to be a good person or just to do right, I feel like just who I am as a person, my character and my personality just motivates me to want to do better, want to be more a good example. So people
Okay.
looking up to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially being a teacher too. You have a lot of
Oh,
kids,
yes, I do.
looking at you as well. Yeah. Lachey?
What motivates me, like the sisters were saying earlier, of course, I was raised by my grandma, so of course my grandma, my spiritual godmother, Betty, she, who, if it wasn't for that woman, I don't know where I would be today. But besides that, just knowing that we can do this and showing people that this can happen. You can be young and you can be a Christian and you can still have fun, and showing people that, and that just motivates me to let them see that, and to let them see my light shining. And if I could just show them that, and if I could just help one person get that understanding and come to Christ, that motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing for the Lord.
Amen. Sid?
Like several of the other ladies, I've had to like reprocess that question. I still believe that your motivations change depending on where you are in your life. So of course, when I was a little younger, I felt like, my parents, I wanted to do right. I wanted to make sure that I lived the life that they would have had me live. And now that I'm a little older, my motivations are still touch base with the parents, but I have a little bit of a different motivator now. I am a mother, and so that changes everything. And so because I did come from a praying mother, and I believe that her prayers are still protecting me to this day, I feel like it's important for me to continue my spiritual walk, and teach my daughter that, so that she knows how to walk as she gets older. And so that is a part of my motivation, as well as I've been a little bit more in tune with tracking God in my life. And so just seeing the things that he has done for me, the things that he has brought me through that I didn't think I was going to make it through, that has been a major motivator for me.
Awesome. Gigi?
So I'll have to wait a minute. Am I on? So I'll have to agree with Sydney. I definitely believe that your motivations change as you grow and mature. Very early on in life, just like everyone else said, of course, my parents, I wanted to do everything perfect and right and be this perfect person and be this perfect Christian so that my parents would be proud of me and they'd be able to tell people, look at my daughter, look at what my daughter has done. However, as I started moving through life and transitioning and different things happen, you go through a variety of different personal tragedies of your own, and you grow into becoming a woman who you really are yourself. I had to start looking more inwardly, and I at that point became my own personal motivator, because I feel like you can be your own worst enemy or you can be your best motivator. So at that point I had to start drawing strength for myself. So for a very, very long time, I had this one thing that I came up with that was Meaholic 101, and everything was about me and how I was self-motivating, and I was so, intent on making sure that everything that I did was for me, 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 me. Now, as I progress, I moved to Dallas about 6 years ago, and that was a complete leap of faith for me. And at that point, when I moved to Dallas, I had really been praying to God. And I remember before I moved out here, I said, God, help me to be the woman that you want me to be. Help me to see myself through your eyes. And when that happened, I transitioned from this whole me, 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 being my own personal motivator. And I started really digging deep down and having a relationship with God for myself. And when that happened, I started realizing that my life, I shouldn't be my own motivator, but I mean, at times you have to be, don't get it twisted. And my parents, I can be motivated, they can motivate me as well, but God should really be the biggest motivator in my life, because one day I'm going to leave here. So what type of legacy am I leaving behind? And so more and more, when I became more cognizant of what do I want my legacy to be, and not just necessarily my legacy, my Christ legacy, my faith walk, what do I want that to look like? I started realizing that my biggest motivation was God, and it was also younger girls that were watching me. You know, if they can look at you and say, oh, look at your fly earrings and your fly outfit, I want them to look at me and be like, look at that fly faith she has. So then that became my motivator.
Great answers, ladies. That's so uplifting to hear, you know, that you still have within you. Yes, your parents or you had outside motivators, but it sounded like that main motivator was you. And I love that, you know. Do you agree that the concept of functioning in status quo, do you believe in that, or do you believe that we should change? And that's including your walk with Christ. Should that also be ever changing, or do you think you should just stay right there? And Gigi, I'm gonna let you start that one since you just finished. I want you to go ahead and start that.
Okay, so I am going to say that initially I did, I was very, I hate to say this, but very judgmental. And at times, I mean, I think we all are judgmental at times, right? So for me, I used to view stagnation in one way, right? For me, I'm the type of person, I'm always on to the next. What's next? What's next? What's next? As I've kind of said before to other people, it took me getting married to really have to look at what stagnation was and move, you know, what does that really look like? Because me and my husband are two totally different people. I'm always popping on what's next. He's more of a slow, he's going to take his time. He's going to walk through things and you know, just, he doesn't move as fast as I move. And I had to realize that was okay. And then it started to click to me that this is the question that you're asking is a very individualistic question. I think that a lot of times we're so quick to judge other people because of where they are, while at the same time, we all move differently. So what is right for you is not necessarily what's right for me. And as I am, like I said, like you said, even about the spirituality, I can get up in the morning, you know, oh, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to read my Bible and I'm going to, you know, just journal and all this stuff or whatever. And then I'm like looking at my husband like, oh, you didn't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning like I did and read your Bible. I didn't see that. But at the end of the day, I mean, he still has his own personal relationship with God, and him and God are good, you know? So I think that sometimes, again, this is a very individualistic question, and we really, truly, and honestly need to stop looking at other people and judging. Just because you're quick to do stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it seems like that person is taking a little bit longer, that they're not processing through. I mean, they may actually get to where they're going spiritually and in life quicker than you. And it seems like you should have been light years ahead of them, but does it really matter? It's really individualistic and up to that person.
Awesome. I agree. Totally agree with that. Lauren?
I was listening to Gigi. I was like, But as far as stagnation, that's one area where I'm that person that God has to push me a little bit, like, okay, Lauren, you did that, right? So go to the next, go try the next thing. So can you ask me the question again because I know you said the stagnation part, but what was the full question?
Do you agree with remaining stagnant or just staying still? Or do you think that, we should continue to grow? And that's including our walk with Christ.
Okay. I definitely feel like we should continue to grow. Like even this past year, I've had to reevaluate what are my dreams. Like, I know I always wanted to be a history teacher, and God gave it to me quicker than I really, before I could get ready, he gave it to me. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, this really doesn't feel like I'm done. It really doesn't feel like I'm just going to stay here for 26 more years and just be working with this same level. And so as far as me, I feel like I would say that it's important to involve, like, my mother is in her 60s and my mom is always, she has more ideas than anybody. And so I really believe that it's also about remembering that God is creative and that we can create, and there's no the way it's given to you is going to be completely unique from the way it's given to the next person. So nobody can do that like you do that. Nobody can say it like you would say it. Nobody can think it like you would think it. You're creative. And so that's something that I've always want to impart to my students when I teach them, like, no matter what your home life is, no matter what your parents were or weren't, you are, like, first of all, you're a global citizen. So this entire world, anywhere on the world that you really want to go, if you really like put your mind and yourself and, and God was working with you towards that, it's like there's nothing that really is holding you back. And so I will share something that I'm trying to evolve into right now. I want to create some evangelistic material for people who have those hard questions about, like, okay, is what you're telling me about God and about faith actually realistic? Like, for those people who wonder, like, what, well, if God loves, then how come there's pain? Or, teaching people, because when I was younger, I didn't know that God let people he loves suffer. I didn't know that. I didn't really get that. It didn't really click to me until I was older, like Joseph, Jacob. There's a lot of people in the Bible who suffered, but God still loved them. So, like, I just want to be able to pull out those very complex topics and bring them down to, like, middle school level and teenage level. And so that's something that I'm evolving into right now.
Okay. Raven?
To answer the question, I don't think I'm somebody who is just okay with being in a stagnant place. I kind of like to think of myself as like a feminist. So you think about the evolution of women along the years. It used to be that you had to marry someone in order to be something or become something. And that changed once, I think, the men went to war and stuff like that. So, you have women that are now working. And I think you kind of fast forward to now, that's what's happening. You have women that are educated. There are women that are have their own jobs, maintaining their household, choosing not to get married, choosing not to have kids. And I think I might have taken that on a little bit. But I think I'm not a type of person who can just be in the status quo. And I think sometimes that does have negative repercussions because I often find myself being tired. Like, there's times when I talk to my mom and she's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm in the bed because I'm tired, because I'm doing all these things because I don't know how to sit still. So I think at this point, I don't know if it's because I'm 30 or what, I'm all about trying to relax and, like, not do too much other than overall. So yeah.
Janisha?
I would say that personally, I do think growth is essential. but it does look different, as Gigi said. I'm one of those individuals who I'm comfortable at this time. I'm in, like, I would consider myself in a transitionary phase. I mean, I'm working right now, but I'm also waiting for my acceptance letter into my accelerated nursing program. So I'm okay right now where I'm at. I'm thinking about future things and thinking about what I could be doing, but I'm also content with where I am right now. But in the same breath, I'll get these inklings of sporadic motivation where I'll go online. I'm studying pharmacology things to get ahead for the nursing program, learning how to take manual blood pressure and look at the readings and things like that. But I think I have a good balance of being content where I'm at, but also when I feel like it, I know how to initiate growth and be motivated to push myself and to excel forward.
Awesome. Ladies, I want y'all to just come in. You have to just come in. I don't want you to think feel I have to, wait for me to ask. So just, if you have an answer, just come on in. This is a light form right here.
I can speak on my answer to that question. I think, like Janisha, I find myself on both sides. Operating in the status quo is what's comfortable for me. And so I found myself in the status quo being comfortable for 7 years. When I said I was only going to take 1 year off from school and then go back and get my master's, but now here I am 8 years later and with a kid. So I definitely think that has forced me in certain areas to pull out of the status quo and the comfortable space and put myself out there. And so because I was in the teaching field for that long, so I do look at that as a blessing, even though I wasn't anticipating on being there that long. I think I found another passion outside of it. I wanted to extend. So I think that was a blessing. And I think even on a spiritual level, dealing with the pandemic and having to be home and not necessarily around your peers, your church members, your church family, it has kind of made me have a deeper connection to God because I had to do my own spiritual walk. And that may not look like the status quo. And so I think in that area, it's definitely something, it's good to grow.
And I want to add something because I didn't tap into the spiritual aspect of my thoughts on that. For me personally, especially this year, since the quote unquote, the construct of the church as we know it is collapsed because of COVID. So I consider myself being proactive at this time and operating in the growth of things because I'm trying to find my niche of where he wants me to be in regards to ministry and how I can serve him better. I mean, I'm participating in certain ministries, but my purpose is wanting to grow more spiritually and find exactly where he wants me to be. So I'm actively seeking him for that.
I feel like growth is very important, especially now with everything with this pandemic. Like, I'm not good at technology at all, but this pandemic has forced me to grow because even with my job, I'm now teaching pre-K kids virtually. So I had to learn Zoom, learn just all kinds of things I had to learn that at one point I was like, I will never teach online. I don't want anything to do with online. But now I've almost as if I was forced to grow and to get out of my comfort of all I have is a cell phone and TV and maybe a laptop, but nothing else. So that's important. Like sometimes you are forced to grow or to learn something else. So I feel like growth is very important to me. And also with my spiritual life, of course, churches are closed down, but now I have no excuse, not have nothing to wear or not waking up on time. You can be home and on your phone with your earplugs in just whenever, listening to a service. Even if you missed the service, you can go back later and watch the service. So, people have really I have no excuse to why I can't read the Bible. Now, I may not wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to read, but I can stay up at night and do it. I'm not really a morning wake up early person like that. But I feel like growth is very important, and you either continue to grow or you just stay where you are and kind of fall behind. So I feel like it's important for me.
I think for me, yes, ma'am.
So go ahead, baby.
I think for me, like the sisters were saying, it's just an individual question, and also I believe like there's a time. It's just a time for everything. Like in Ecclesiastic, it tells us it's the time to sit still. I'm paraphrasing and everything. For everything, there's a season, and so it's just a time and a place for everything. Like it's a time for us to be still. It's a time for us to move and get out and do things and speak up. And for me, sometimes the Lord knows it takes a push for me. I feel like that, okay, I'm doing this. So, I'm good. I can stay right here for a while. I'm going to do this. And the Lord is like, no, I need you to do this. I need you to do more. So it takes a little bit more for me because I myself, I will get stagnant and I will stay in one place and be like, well, I made it here, so I could sit here for a while. But so that part, I'm a big procrastinator. So I'm working on that. That's something I'm working on right now.
I don't think you're alone, Lachey. I think most people have a little bit of that procrastination in them, even those ones who consider themselves as to be the jack of all trade. And it's okay. Like you said, it's okay to be individuals, and that's what we have to respect in people, that we're not all the same. Final question. Do you all place importance on relationships, especially with the older generation? And are y'all openly receptive to feedback? And in that question, I want you to also tie your final thoughts in there too. The final thing that you really want us. I know we hit on it when we started, but as you kept talking, maybe it was something you forgot to say that you want everyone to hear.
I'll go. The rebellion that we kind of all touched on, I think it's kind of misconstrued by the older generation. I think that that rebellion is us advocating for ourselves. This is not to disrespect anybody or any generation. This is not the 1950s, not the 1960s. Like, I think this generation is really going for what they want. I think we have learned a lot from the older generation, but we've also had to be advocates for ourselves, for y'all to listen to us, to hear us. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say. I think that's what I want to say.
Okay, I would say yes to the question. I love advice from the older generation. I even have older members who I go and visit from time to time, and we sit and talk. So yes, I would accept their advice and see, if I want to use it. If I don't, I love talking to the older generation. But sometimes, it's a way that people can say things to you. So if they're like, sometimes people can say something to you and it's like, okay, I may take it the wrong way. So we just kind of want to understand and want them to, be specific and tell us what you mean and just have an understanding so we won't take things the wrong way. So yes, I do appreciate the older generation and what they have to say, and also just the way people can say things as well. And one thing that I do want, I still feel what I said in the beginning, that we're not all the same. Some of us do want a good career, be successful, go to college, want something in life. We're not all about trouble or whatever you may see on TV or see in the world. We're not all like that. So yes, that's how I feel.
Okay, I'll go. I'll say that yes, I'm very receptive to taking advice and hearing from the older generation. Most definitely, I think that most of us as millennials are. But again, there's a thin line between that as well, because again, I want to hear what you have to say. I want you to express to me what it is that you have to say, but I also want you to be receptive to hear my response back to you, because it's in certain instances, just because you see that and that's the way it's always been done, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it has to continue to be done. So let's sit down and have a conversation. Let me tell you why I feel the way that I feel. You told me why you feel the way that you feel, and then maybe we can meet in the middle, or maybe I won't take your advice. Because I do feel that the way that I'm doing it is the better way, but it does not mean that I'm being disrespectful. And it doesn't mean that I don't respect your opinion. I think that that's a misconception, because if we don't do things sometimes the way the older generation thinks that we should do things, then it's seen as being disrespectful. But we're all at this point, even though we're millennials and we're younger than you guys, we're adults. So if you also, the older generation also has to be receptive to hearing what we have to say, because then it comes across as though you don't respect me either. You know, it's literally, it's two adults talking to each other. And I think that is also one of the major barriers that we need to work on overcoming, definitely in the church as well. But my final thought is, and I've said this before, I get so confused a lot of times with the older generation having such an issue with millennials. I feel like, I'm going to say this, you guys raised us. We're a product of you guys. So it's really interesting to me at times when you guys raised us to ask questions and to not just follow the status quo. Yet when we ask questions and we don't follow the status quo, most of the older generation has a problem with that, and they want to say, "Oh, I don't want to have anything to do with those millennials. They're disrespectful. They don't listen, you know, et cetera, et cetera." And it's you raised us. We are literally you guys grown up, you know. So definitely take that into consideration. And my last thought on that is, stop being afraid of us, because I've said this a million times before, like all the time. I really am. It's really disheartening a lot of times to hear some of the older generation, the way they talk about millennials, because we are a lot more receptive and understanding than I think that we're given credit for. And so because you guys, quote unquote, don't understand the people that you raised, there's that point again. You guys are just leaving us out here to just figure stuff out for ourselves. And then y'all get mad when we're having these conversations amongst ourselves saying that we're not listening. Y'all done abandoned us. You know, you guys have totally abandoned us. And so I really would like for us to get back to that point where the same way that you guys had the older ladies and the older gentlemen, if you're a guy, were talking to you and giving you advice on life, can we please get some advice and get back to that point? Because I mean, literally, we are here advising each other. And sometimes it is the blind leading the blind, but what do you guys expect if you guys are just going to leave us out here to literally fend for ourselves?
I I agree with the ladies. Gigi said, well, I feel like I don't even have to say anything now because Gigi done said it all. But yeah, just I agree. I without the you guys' advice and some of the older people in my life, I wouldn't be this far in my faith walk as I am right now. So I really appreciate that. And just going back to what I said earlier, the consistency and the respect, like you guys want that respect from us and it's rightly deserved, but also we also want that respect from you all, like they were saying earlier, when we give you our opinions, then don't belittle them, like take them in consideration. And when we don't take your opinions, don't belittle us and feel like that, oh well, they're just not listening to us, or just be down on us to where you just do away with this. You don't want to talk to us anymore. You feel like we're hard to work with because we have our own opinions. So that's where I feel like that consistency and respect comes in
I'd have to agree with what the lady is saying. I do believe it is important to have and build those relationships with the older generation. But again, as they were stating, respect does go a long way in how you approach it. I always say It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And to always come from a place of love. One thing, final thought that I would like to share would be to piggyback off of Gigi. She stated that, don't be afraid of us. It's okay to, talk to us. I'm friendly, I'm nice. I can have a conversation. And as I stated in my first point, I'm very mature in my thought process. A lot of things you might find that I have in common with you as an older person. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to tap into our talents. I think what we found out when COVID-19 hit is that we need our millennial generation, because we know about technology and how to have Facebook, Zoom, and Facebook Live services and things like that. So don't be afraid to use our talents, and also recognize that we do have something to bring to the table, and it's not that we're trying to move you out of the way. It's not a competition or anything to be jealous about, because we are wanting to be collaborative with you guys so that we can build the kingdom.
I would say I definitely appreciate older wisdom and wiser women giving and imparting their experiences. Sometimes those words need to be seasoned with salt, because when you are like trying to warn somebody, but your warning is almost like a disdainful warning, we may not get it. Like I might not get, oh, I'm making an actual mistake, or, I really should understand where this person is coming from. But sometimes it's like, unless you dig deep enough with us to really like tell us, well, I'm telling you this because this happened to me. Like if you're not willing to say that this happened to me part, then it's gonna kind of be like, we're just, like Gigi was saying, like we're gonna be like, well, I'm doing my best thinking here and I prayed about it and I think I'm doing what's right, so I'm gonna just keep going in my direction. But I also want to say something that I really see for the men is that we really need our older men to reach back to our younger men. Like, we're sisters, we have each other. I have so many different older women I can reach out to on prayer calls. I have so many different younger women that I can reach out to. But for men, they do not have that type of support and network, even amongst us as the body. And they really need it, because it's like, you can't sit from your position of, okay, I have retirement, Social Security, I have I'm straight. And, the Bible talks about when you see your brother in need, you are supposed to have compassion on them. So I think that the older generation needs to show us more compassion and kind of be like, well, I know where you are and I want to compassionately help you along, especially for the men. And also to wrap up my closing thoughts, another thing is that when it's our opportunity to take the reins, support us. Let us be creative. Let us actually strike out into new things. Let us do things you've never heard of before. Give us 15 minutes to say, okay, you want to do, this skit or this whatever, and you think it's going to reach people, go ahead and do it, instead of, like kind of letting us do it and then waiting for it to fall, or, like not actually giving us maybe the funding for it, or whatever the case may be. And also on this topic in general, as far as how can we benefit each other, going back to like just as far as ideas and resources, like older generations have the resources, but we might have the ideas. So that's where we need to be able to work together as a team and realize the whole point is there's a whole, I don't know how many billion people there is in the world, but there's all these people, and so many of them either have heard, some of them heard and fell away, some of them, just are obstinate. So it is our job to like be working on every single front that we can to draw people.
I'd say that it is definitely necessary that we have access to the wisdom that the older generation has. Just to expound upon what Lauren said, like she said, we may have some of the ideas that may work a little bit better in this particular time frame. But the wisdom is necessary for us to go about in doing those things. And also, it's necessary to have the wisdom that you have because you have experienced some of the things that we may be going through right now. And so it's good to know that we're not alone. And I definitely think that that will help with a lot of the issues that we have with our generation with mental health. Because a lot of times we feel that we are struggling and we don't have anyone that's been where we were. And so it's important for you to share those stories so that we can better ourselves. And so I guess a final thought would be, and it's kind of been touched upon already, is that don't misconstrue our passion as disrespect or unruliness. Because sometimes it's necessary for us to know the why behind the what. Like, I don't know if you ladies have heard parents say, oh, if your friends go jump off a bridge, you gonna jump too? No, I'm not. But if you tell me to do something, I'm gonna question it. So you're not my friend, but you may be my mother, my grandmother. So why do you want me to do this? So we're gonna question it. So don't take that as disrespect. I just want to know the why behind the what. And sometimes it takes a little bit of ruffling feathers and going against the grain to make a change. So although to you, it may seem like it's going against the status quo, and as young people, we should not be speaking out and going against the grain, but it's necessary to make the change. So that's what I wanted to say.
I love this. I am so proud of you all because I'm hearing a general theme here. You want to learn, or not learn, you want to listen, but you also want to be heard. It's a way in which you present as well that we need to listen to. And I say we because I'm a part of that older generation who believe, yes, you all have something to say, but I also need to listen to what you all have to say. So I'm hearing this general theme with you all, and I'm praying that everyone who heard, they're hearing that as well, and rethink some of the things that they may have self unconsciously that they've been doing, because we have to make a change in order to bridge that gap. And even the same thing, you all with that next generation, because their generation is different too, So, but in order, different is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Now, does anyone have anything going on that you want to let anybody know about so they can continue to support you all? I know we have some people in school, we have some, not those type of things, but anything that you have that is community things that you have that you want to share so they can support you.
Okay, hi, it's Gigi again. As you can see, Gigi Powers at Pretty is a Lifestyle, because that's my blog. So feel free to follow me on Facebook at Gigi Powers. Also, you can follow my blog, www.prettiesalifestyle.com. I also want to take this moment to shout out my little sister, JJ Walker. She has a young girls camp that she puts on every year on Jekyll Island in Brunswick, Georgia. It's called My Heart Belongs to God. It is an amazing camp, and we need to make sure that we are pouring into, not a lot of times we have all of these very mature programs for the older women, but we also need to make sure that we're touching back and that we're pouring into the younger girls before they get into that problem area, right? So My Heart Belongs to God is an amazing camp that JJ Walker puts together, and I want you guys to be on the lookout for that. She's more than likely, with the pandemic going on, she wound up having to do it virtually this year, but that's another thing about millennials. We are unstoppable. No matter what happens, we're going to keep going. So next year, we're hoping that My Heart Belongs to God comes back and that they're actually able to meet in person. But be on the lookout for that. JJ Walker, My Heart Belongs to God. It's on Jekyll Island in Brunswick, Georgia. Your young girl should be there.
Just to piggyback on that, it is an awesome program. And Angel can verify that too. And it is such a needed thing. I agree.
It's great. It's good. I try to go as much as I can.
Yes, it's great for young women because we do need to spew into them because they're that next generation, like I said. So, family, I just want to share one last thing with you, and that is that Lionel and Christian Sims. Now, this is the daughter of one of my very good friends and a friend to many, and that's Willie and Terry Mays. That's their daughter. Now, they prayed about, and they decided to try again to become parents. Now, Lord willing, this will happen. And what they're trying to do is through the process of in vitro fertilization, not it's very expensive. Now, this beautiful couple, they lost their son Leo back in June 2019, and he was only 6.5 months old. So it's taken a lot for them to take this step to try again. And actual in vitro fertilization, it costs $35,000. So therefore, they have started a GoFundMe page. The legends continue in vitro fertilization costs. If you go to GoFundMe, that's the legends continue in vitro fertilization costs. Now, Terry May, she also has a fundraiser going on her webpage as well, terrymooremays.com. That's terrymooremays.com, and that's Terry with an I. Now, please, please, I'm asking you to go to these forums and support, and most importantly, pray. Pray for this very worthy effort. Amen. Now, family, if anything that was said tonight and you could not, it was a lot, and you want to ask some questions, you can reach out to me as well. And excuse me, you can reach out to me, of course, on Facebook Live or Facebook Rosalind Green Price, or you can email me in him _forever@yahoo.com. That's in him _forever@yahoo.com. Or you can reach me on my YouTube page, Rosalind Green Price, Real Talk Now. Rosalind Green Price, Real Talk Now. And make sure if you go to my YouTube page that you like it. Blessings, family. And we'll see you all next time. Stay right there, ladies.